at the top here, I want to just kind of frame an introduction to FloQast, dive into, how FloQast fits in the Sage and the Microsoft ecosystem. Majority of the call today, we will dive into the tool itself and see a demo of FloQast. So as we're diving in here, want to do a little framing of FloQast at the top. So FloQast at its core, our bread and butter to say the least, is close management and account reconciliations. So as we become a more robust tool over the past decade, we really go to market now as a workflow management solution. So you can track and manage really any workflow under the office of the CFO, office of the controller. What really sets us apart in the marketplace, though, is that we were purpose-built by accountants who are in the trenches, closing the books each month, running into a lot of the same pain points that our clients are running into. Whether that's, teams are looking to cut the time it takes to close the books, maybe they want better visibility around the close and reconciliations, especially as teams are decentralized or work from home. Maybe they want smoother audits. They're running into discrepancies. There's not that clear audit trail. Or maybe they're looking to just scale the team through natural growth, through acquisitions, through an IPO event. Really, you name it, FloQast was built to help those teams. So as it stands today, we now have over 2,100 customers closing the books using FloQast. We do have offices in the United States and London, and we are expanding to Sydney, Australia currently, as well as Germany. So really starting to see that global presence here at FloQast. And then as you can see on the slide here, our customers are, finding value with FloQast. 98% of our customers are really starting to achieve that business value. One of the ways that they do that is through our quick implementation timeline. So our tool is able to be implemented in about 4 to 8 weeks on average. So very different from ERP implementations. We aim to be a very light lift on teams, be that quick win. And that is kind of how our customers are starting to see that quick ROI, see that value quickly using the tool. We can jump to the next slide here. This slide's really just to highlight, what our customer base looks like. So as I mentioned, we do have over 2,100 customers closing the books using FloQast. We are industry agnostic here. So we can support clients from really any industry you can think of, all the way from smaller VC-backed companies, upwards of some of the larger logos you see on the slide here, such as Snowflake, SoFi, Zoom, the Lakers even Sage Intacct is using us to close their books. So one of the stories I like to share is we did sell to Shenandoah Chicken Farms, which is a chicken farm. Even chicken farms need to close their books. So it is a testament to, we really can fit in at any industry within the space. So that is just to highlight that we can plug and play wherever you are. And then now I want to speak to, how we were purpose-built by accountants for accountants. So from a product structure, we want to meet accounting teams where they're working today. So FloQast really acts as that bridge between the ERP, whether it's Sage Intacct, Microsoft Business Central, another ERP. We act as that bridge between the ERP and Excel. So what you see on the left-hand side here is really just that connection to the ERP. So we're pulling in real-time trial balance information from your ERP using a direct API connection. So anytime an entry is posted in your ERP, that is refreshed and reflected directly in FloQast. One thing I want to note as well, we don't ever push data back into the ERP, so it is just that one-way connection from ERP to FloQast. And then on the right-hand side here, we can connect with our client's cloud storage provider to integrate directly with Excel. So we integrate with the 5 major cloud providers that are listed on this slide. Those are Microsoft OneDrive, Google Drive, Box, Dropbox, and Ignite. So now we're able to pull in any of the supporting documents that might relate to reconciliations and see in real time, the comparison of the trial balance data from the ERP directly with the Excel balances that you're seeing in those reconciliation work papers. So all of this will make a lot more sense when we open up the tool. So with that being said, I'll go ahead and pass it over to Adam to walk us through a demo and we can dive right into FloQast.
Thank you, Ellen. Sure thing. So here is FloQast. So I logged in today via Google Chrome. We are a cloud-based solution. And what you're looking at here is the sort of highest level view of FloQast overall, so that 30,000 foot view. And we first started, as a close management tool. So you can see here we have our close for their global close for February listed here. but really becoming anything under the office of the CFO. So any of those checklists, any of the other workflows that you might have, accounting and finance teams obviously do a lot more than just the close. We have the ability to bring in those checklists and be able to track those and have full visibility into status updates as well. Coming down below, because we know we have that close and those different workflows, we have the ability in a calendar type view to organize all of that data. So all of the checklists and reconciliations that your team is working through, you can see, by the different closes, how many items are due on any given day, as well as giving you a rough estimate of completion. So we can see that for close February, we're 22% complete and running late. We have a target of April 5th with projected of May 1st. Likewise, you can see by team member those total number of tasks as well, which is a really helpful command center. If you're coming in today, okay, we're doing an M&A activity, we need to switch our gears a little bit from the close activity. Who has what on their plate today, and how can we sort of rearrange or triage that work to better suit all of the demands of the accounting team overall. Popping into the close for February. This is the progress view. So this is really, I like to say it's helping answer the question, are we going to close on time? So we have, all of the checklist items and reconciliations, living within FloQast with due dates assigned. So we're able to provide you with a target close date based off of, the due dates that you've set out. We're also allowing a projected close date. So based off the success of those sign-offs, in the back end, we can kind of calculate and give you an idea of how people are progressing through the close and where you are. And if you're running late, 35% complete, we should be 90% complete. Over here, we're kind of breaking out what is happening. So, are we behind on preparation of checklist items and reconciliations, or is it more just, we haven't gotten to the review portion of the close yet? So really, again, just being able to sort of demarcate all of this information, and again, a command center to be able to come in and really triage the work. Likewise, it calls out which is late, and if you click here, it'll bring up a list and be able to hyperlink directly to those activities within the application. Within the timeline view, this is where we have all of the entities listed out. So, you might be a single entity, you might be a multi-entity firm. Here you can have all of the entities listed out. And again, that calendar type view of total items due on any given day with an idea of percentage completion and whether you're running late. But if I click into FloQast Corporate, for instance, this is going to bring me a level deeper. So it's going to show all of the process areas that exist within FloQast Corporate. We take a balance sheet approach within the sales demo account, but just to note that FloQast is very flexible in how you set up your instance. So it can be the process folders, the entity structure, the workflows are fully customizable to meet you where you work. And as part of implementation, our team of former accountants and CPAs really work with you to get an understanding of your chart of accounts, your trial balance, and how you work today to better suit FloQast to your processes today. If I come down into accrued compensation, we're going to land in sort of the deepest level of FloQast, the most granular view. So this is where a staff accountant might be working to close out the process area of accrued compensation. So we're living within FloQast corporate entity in the month of February under accrued compensation. And within this folder view, it consists mainly of three parts. So we have our checklist items. So any and all work leading up to closing out that process area that is needed for the monthly close. All documentation related to that process area, and this is where we're leveraging your instance of cloud storage. And then finally, the reconciliation tieouts. So this is where we're integrating with your ERP through an API connection or SFTP and pulling in the final trial balances and comparing them against the ending balances of your Excel-based reconciliations, and then providing some controls around sign-off, as well as some detective controls that we'll speak to later. Coming back up to the checklist, unlimited characters for descriptions, and then the ability to assign due dates based off of a T plus or minus system. So if you're tracking against a 5-day close, for instance, you would assign out checklists and reconciliations in accordance with that 5-day close. So business day 1, business day 2, FloQast is going to take into account your holiday schedule and calculate out those calendar due dates. Beginning of each month and the subsequent month, we're going to rebuild that folder structure and roll forward the checklist items automatically for you and calculate those appropriate calendar due dates. Within the checklist, you're going to have the ability to have assignees, both preparers and reviewers. Any permutation thereof. You can have many preparers, many reviewers. You can have reviewers, only on a quarterly basis if you'd like. Really how you see fit. And within this checklist item, I'm going to be able to sign off. There's going to be a time and date stamp, which is perfect for audit trails. So really getting an understanding of who completed what and at what time. And when I sign off, Mark, as reviewer, is going to be notified that this item is ready for his review. Within the checklist item, I have the ability to attach documentation directly to the checklist item. So Mark can come in to this item when it's ready for his view, click on it, and then access all the documentation he needs right from the checklist item. So no more digging into a file finder, no more side slacking someone, hey, where are these files? They're all organized for him. If he had any questions or concerns around this, or if I had a comment for him, if something was atypical for the month, I could launch a review note. And this review note, assigned to me, is integrated with both Slack and Teams if your organization uses that. So what's cool about that one is that this review note is launched to me. I'm actually going to get a ping within my Slack or Teams instance with the contents of that review note, and I can reply directly in Teams. And all of that back and forth communication is going to be housed to this checklist item and documented within FloQast to that historical period. So great for audits. So when you're, the auditors ask you a question and you're trying to figure out what was I doing in that period, close period, that quarter end, it's very easy to toggle back through the application and get an understanding of what was going on without having to dig through emails or look through your Post-it notes. Again, just bringing organization and some sanity to the close overall. Likewise, with Teams and Slack, the notifications about ready for your review or if items are running late can all be delivered to your Slack or Teams instance. So again, meeting your team where they work, getting an understanding of what's on their plate without necessarily having to log into FloQast itself. There's even an end of day reminder where anything that was due today, you'll get a message from Slack or Teams. Hi, these are the task items that were due today. You haven't signed off yet, are they complete? And you can actually mark it as reviewed or completed directly from your instance of Slack or Teams. I sometimes do it on my mobile phone. So just a nice end of day reminder to nudge that good behavior so that people are signing off appropriately so that we have that accurate dashboarding of knowing when we're going to close on time. One of the things I loved about FloQast is its ease of use. So within here, the ability to edit an item with the appropriate permissions, whether you're an admin or manager, you can come in on a one-off, select, change the description. You can add a tag. So within FloQast, we offer 50 customizable tags. This is helpful for, I think, further slicing and dicing the data. If you had a specific team, Team GL, you can tag out reconciliations and checklist items as such and be able to further, filter through to get an understanding of, if something is high risk, have we completed everything that is high risk, et cetera, et cetera. The ability to change out preparers or reviewers. So if I'm out for the month, I can change this to Adam Yarnell and select this period only. So that's going to make this task his assignment for this close period. And then automatically in the next close period, it's going to revert back to the original assignee. Perhaps I'm reassigning it forevermore. So this period going forward, I can easily change that task. This can also be done on a bulk basis. So if I go in, I want to reassign all of my work to Adam Yarnell, maybe I got a promotion, maybe we're just switching up work so people can better understand the organization. You can do that across persons, across all those workflows. The ability to set the frequency, so whether it's weekly, monthly, quarterly, annual, maybe it's a one-off with tax items, maybe March and October have something due. You can select those, and all of those different checklists are going to overlay perfectly. So any of those quarter end items, you can mark them as quarterly. They're only going to show up in the appropriate quarter end period, so they're not cluttering your checklist for periods in which they're not relevant. Likewise, adding an item, similar process and very easy to do so. You can set the frequency, add your assignees, reviewers. You can assign the due date. We can even use pre-close items, so -1, -2, or perhaps a use date. If something is due specifically on the 15th of every month, you can do so as well. And philosophically, FloQast is intended to be sort of wholly maintained by the accounting team. And that's what I loved. So when I stood up my instance of FloQast, I kind of had a rudimentary checklist that was just close AP. There's a lot of tribal knowledge in the organization. There was a lot of side checklists that people had. And over time, rather than make it sort of this huge project where I sat down and tried to put everything together at once, nothing's perfect. Close is always, changing and iterating. I could, during close, if something was missed, make that a checklist item. Start bringing in that tribal knowledge, start bringing in those side checklists so that over time, I had a more robust system that was documenting everything so that if someone was out, someone else could come in and get an understanding of the work they performed and really start building out those instructions to stabilize the close overall. And thinking about the checklists and your team signing off on things, oftentimes it's not necessarily the accounting team that is running behind. They're running behind because they're waiting on information from third parties, whether it's HR within your organization or marketing within your organization, or perhaps outside counsel. Those legal firms never really send their invoices on time, so you're constantly reaching out to get accruals, things like that. We've built out something called Remind. So essentially, it's the ability to automate email campaigns to gather that information on your behalf. So I could click here, create new bonus request attached to that checklist item. And what this is going to do, I could attain confirmation. And what this is going to do is essentially set up a campaign. So set it, forget it. You set it up once. You select the cadency in which you are going out. And each and every subsequent period, that email campaign is automatically going to send out the request on your behalf. And you can even send up a follow-up message. So you have the initial message with the preview. You can customize that as you see fit. And then we have several message modes. So we have never give up, which means you're going to be my best friend at the end of this. FloQast is going to email that person every single day until they respond with the appropriate information. Perhaps you don't want to be that aggressive. You can tone it down to persistent, diligent, or even chill mode. So chill mode would be great for, hey, just a gentle reminder to get those expenses in for the month. And then for the follow-up message, you can even, customize that as well. But what's really cool about this is it's organizing all the information into another command center, I like to think of it. So if I come into this vendor accruals Remind campaign, it's going to list out all of the people who that email went out to and give you an understanding of your progress in getting that information. So we can see here the response rate is 75%. You get an understanding of if all the emails are delivered, have they all been opened, have any of them bounced, or is someone marking you as spam to try to avoid you? So here, it's just very easy to get an understanding, okay, do I have all the information I need to close out that activity for the month? And if not, what do I need to do? So within here, there's an export button. So the body of the email responses get aggregated into a single Excel spreadsheet, as well as all the attachments. So you can just click export. It's going to be a zip folder. You can save that down into your cloud storage, have all of that documentation, and then use that to close out the process area. Further, there's even analytics around the Remind campaigns. So previously, we were looking at a Remind campaign, getting an understanding of that particular period. But over time, we're also giving you an understanding of, who are the people that are consistently late and the average days late. So arming you with some data to have, I think, appropriate conversations when needed if someone is running late. So I actually use this in my former role in which we had milestone billing for professional services. So it was a lot of reaching out to project managers to get an understanding of, what can I recognize from deferred revenue, what milestones are good to bill, what need to be pushed, et cetera. So I use this to kind of formalize that, the revenue recognition process, and then even use this data to say, hey, here are a couple of the project managers that are constantly running late. That's why my preliminary revenue numbers are plus or minus a variance, because I'm sort of estimating their response because they haven't yet responded to me. So just gave good data to have that conversation as well. And then further with Remind, it's attached to the checklist item. So at any given point within the checklist, you can get understanding of the response rate overall, and then even export directly from the checklist item itself. One of the build outs we have within FloQast, which is really cool and relatively new, again, thinking end to end under the office of the CFO, is a compliance module. So within FloQast, we can house your total risk control matrix or any other compliance needs that live under your organization. and then link those controls directly to the checklist items and reconciliations. So the value point being there is, as Mark is working through the checklist item, he can get an understanding that FRO2 is related to a key control. That's why we have that fun little image there. And get an understanding of the title and description of that key control. So a nice little reminder that, hey, when he's signing off and performing this checklist item, maybe he should make sure that it's timely in its submission and then completely up to date and completely thorough with respect to its work. Likewise, Mark sign off with the time and date stamp, any of the review notes, the qualitative review back and forth, any of those attachments, all flows through to the compliance module and lives under this FRO2. So anyone who's responsible for that control, whether it's control owners or whether it is internal audit coming to pull information to test that control even, can search for FRO2 within the compliance module, select the periods that they are looking for, and then pull that information directly. So the idea being that, the accounting team is already producing this work through the operational activities or close. Maybe HR has a workflow within FloQast. Maybe IT has an, ITGC workflow within FloQast. All of that is being captured by FloQast. So why make these teams do duplicative work of having to, complete the close, then take all that information and upload it in a secondary source, or have a PBC issued? Ideally, cutting down on the communication time between those teams. IA is a little happier because they're automatically getting a lot of the information, and then they only really need to follow up with anything that's missing. So that rounds out the checklist. So the second piece within the folders view is the documents. So this is where we're leveraging your instance of cloud storage. As Ali said at the top, we integrate with any of the 5 major cloud storage providers. And you can see here that all of this documentation is actually the same documentation that lives within the cloud storage. So again, as part of implementation, we will build out the folder structure of your organization, and through a two-way API integration, create a root folder, a FloQast root folder. And everything that lives under this folder structure is going to be mirrored into the application. So all of these files here live here. So there's kind of 2 pieces to this. You own all of the documentation because it's living on your instance of cloud storage. So we're not forcing you to upload your documentation to our servers. And I like to joke that it makes it extremely easy to break up with us. So if you're ever had FloQast and decided, FloQast is no go for me anymore, you just simply cut us off. That folder structure remains intact, and all of that historical documentation you already own. You don't have to claw anything back from us. Secondarily, it's always going to be the single source file, so you don't have the issue of version control. Because if you're working within this document here, or open up this document in the web version of Excel, it's always the same version of that file. So there's no issues of, oh, I saved a reconciliation to my personal drive, and that's actually the correct one. The one you're looking at was an outdated one. It's really just kind of reducing that confusion and that back and forth overall, because everyone knows exactly where those documents are, and they know that they're going to be the correct documents. And then the final piece, my favorite, to the folders view, is the reconciliations tie-out. So this, again, is where we're bringing in the trial balance from your ERP, whether it's Intacct or Business Central, but we also integrate with any other ERP, essentially, and then pulling in the ending balance from your Excel-based reconciliations. So we take a 2-pronged approach at FloQast with respect to bringing in reconciliations to the application. We're former accountants. We love Excel. We know that Excel's not going anywhere. And we know that to try to force a lot of reconciliations into particular templates, it just takes a lot of effort and time and resources that a lot of teams don't have. So we're giving teams the ability to continue to leverage Excel while bringing visibility and control to it. But we are able to automate some reconciliations that are more standard. So if you think of cash reconciliations, intercompanies, credit cards, we can do that via a machine learning model. Likewise, we can systemize your prepaid schedule, as well as your PPE, deferred revenue. If it's a straight line amortization, could also be housed within FloQast, and I will cover that in a minute. But within here, I can come down to this account, 2009 accrued bonus. You can see here per TB per reconciled balance. We're setting a materiality threshold of $10. I'm way beyond that materiality threshold, so I'm unable to sign off. So we have preventative controls in place, and I have some work to do. If I pull up this accrued bonus, I can see here, for demo purposes, I was missing $50,000. So if I click save to this reconciliation and click refresh, what FloQast is doing is now pinging both your ERP for the latest trial balance numbers, as well as parsing through those files in cloud storage, pulling the latest reconciliation balances. And as it refreshes, I can show you how we're doing that. So within here, this hashtag FQ2009 is how we're pulling in the ending balance to that TB. And that is the only change you need to make to your reconciliations today. So one of the beautiful things about FloQast is, again, we're not forcing you into particular templates or web forms of any sort. All the reconciliations you have today are going to be compatible with FloQast. You simply just need to add that hashtag FQ and save down those files into that file structure within cloud storage. And we're going to bring visibility and control to those reconciliations. Looks like my internet is stuck on the refresh button. Try that again. Okay, well, my refresh button is stuck. My home internet is always acting up, but essentially it would fall into balance and I'd be able to sign off on that. And then likewise, if it fell out of balance. So you can see here, I haven't signed off yet. Anything that falls out of balance is going to end up in redo mode. So if something from the TB changes, so if you're thinking you signed off on a reconciliation, and someone posts a journal entry or transactions enter, a GL account after you've reconciled, FloQast is going to detect that change and then basically remove the sign off on your behalf. And what's going to happen there is that notifications are going to be sent out directly to everyone involved in that reconciliation that something changed and needs to be done. So what happens when I was assistant controller, I like to joke that I hated getting notifications that something fell out of balance, but loved them. Because it meant that there's no last minute surprises with respect to trying to produce the financials and then 5 accounts on the balance sheet that previously were reconciled or suddenly not reconciled, and having to kind of weave back through close and try to get an understanding of, is this material? Can we let this slide? Is it the reconciliation that needs to be updated? Is there a mistake in the ERP? All of that risk that could be introduced in the financials at the last moment if something changes to the reconciled balance. A couple of pieces of the advanced automation. So auto-rec matching. I can actually first come into the central views. So what we're looking at was the folders view overall. And that is sort of the most granular view. But if you are, accounting manager, controller, CFO, and you want to garner an understanding of the checklist and reconciliation in aggregate across all of those entities, you can do so here. So I can look at FloQast Corporate. Basically, we're listing out all of the activity within FloQast Corporate. I could choose all entities to get an even wider lens. But within here, it's very helpful to slice and dice and parse through the information. So I know if I'm a user and I want to understand what my assignments are, I can click Assign to Me, and it's going to quickly filter out all of that information. Likewise, if I wanted to do status redo mode, I want to get a quick understanding of all the reconciliations that fell out of balance for FloQast Corporate. You can see here it's listing out all of the reconciliations that were previously signed off, but FloQast detected a change and then removed that sign off, and then sent those notices out to those people that they need to come back and fix something. In terms of automation, we have the first piece, fixed balance accounts. So with a fixed balance account, essentially anything on your balance sheet where you expect period over period the amount to not change, maybe that's a clearing account or restricted cash, for instance. You can set the expected amount within FloQast, and if that expected amount matches the TB come close, FloQast will sign off on your behalf. Just an easy way to sort of reduce risk overall. A set it and forget it. FloQast is going to notify you if something changes. So you don't necessarily need a reconciliation, and you don't need to sort of pay attention to those accounts unless FloQast flags it for you. And then in terms of some of our automation, the first piece is auto-rec matching. The second piece is auto-rec amortization. Within auto-rec matching, this is essentially where you can take those cash accounts and have a machine learning model make most of the matches on your behalf. But it's really any two data sets where you are making matches. So it's a pretty flexible tool overall. And what we do is have a machine learning model look at 4 pieces of data. So it's looking at date, amount, and then 2 unique reference fields. It's a one-time setup per account in terms of pointing to basically telling FloQast where to look in the Excel spreadsheet. So you could have 10 columns of references. You choose the 2 that you think are going to make the best matches, and FloQast will constantly look at those 2 columns. So you can see here, based off of the date, amount, and 2 reference fields, the machine learning model is able to make, on average for most of our clients, 80% of matches. And it does so by assigning a probability score in the back end. And it's able to make one-to-one matches, many-to-one matches, same-sided reversals, and even those batch matches. So a little more comprehensive than most ERPs, in which it's pretty good at making one-to-one matches, but anything beyond that, it's usually incumbent upon the team to manually make those matches. And the idea being that, we want the machine learning model to do most of the matches on your behalf so that you're just left with the exceptions. Another value point to this is that because it's a machine learning model, there's no need to build rules and there's no need to maintain rules. So it's a really an out-of-the-box experience. So if your team is, overworked and doesn't have the time to build out rules, or those rules are constantly breaking, you need to constantly update those, we're saving you all that time. So you'll just be left with the exceptions. And this is anything that the machine learning model has been unable to make, or basically calling out, okay, there's something that is hitting the bank that wasn't posted to the GL. This is where this transactions page will show you what's going on. It's really easy to sort and filter and build matches. And from here, you can do so. I can show an example. Just undo that. So in terms of searching and sorting, I could search for lawyer. And then select all. So these are 3 GL items that are the lawyer fees. It's probably going to be a group payment on the bank side, so I can search for amount, 7,620. And that's going to pull up the amount. I can see that it's the same lawyer fees. Green means go. I can click reconciled, and that's going to bring me to the reconciled transactions page. And this is where you can see the full audit trail and whether the match was made by machine, so FloQast, or by human down here. And then at the end, when you are complete for the month, you can run this matching on a weekly basis. You can run this matching on a daily basis, depending on how your organization needs things to be cleared out. But at the end of the month, you can actually export the Excel, and we're going to give you the full Excel-based reconciliation. So we have an introduction tab because we're accountants and we love that kind of stuff. We're going to have the reconciliations page with an aging analysis, as well as that hashtag FQ. So when you save down this reconciliation to the folders, it's going to give you the ability to sign off within those reconciliations, the reconciliation page. A tab for outstanding GL transactions, a tab for outstanding bank transactions, that full reconciliation export, as well as a place to put your bank statement PDF. In terms of auto-rec amortization, this is where we take, we can take that Excel-based prepaid schedule and bring it into the system and systemize it to reduce errors. So as an Intacct user, we initially used the automated journal entry postings for prepaids, but we still had an Excel-based schedule as a double check, as that reconciliation. I actually liked this so much and it made it so much cleaner that I abandoned the journal postings, the automated journal postings, and just use the journal entry export that FloQast provided just as my final control for the month. Again, because there were so many changes to the prepaids, I often had to do a contra entry to those, the automated journal entries. It just made it really confusing and kind of cumbersome. So I just used this wholly. So I uploaded all the historical information and then basically had this prepaid schedule systemized within FloQast. The ability to inline edit is very helpful. So if I need to accelerate or decelerate the expense for the month, perhaps have a usage-based amortization, FloQast is going to allow you to do that, and then ensure that the end life of that invoice is going to remain at 0. There's a control in place. You can see I can edit February. January has closed, so there's a control in place in which I can't edit prior periods. And then there's even a document link to put the link to that invoice for easy reference. Because we're using cloud storage, you can save those invoices down into a folder and then provide that document link, which is great for reference to ensure that the item is correct, or even for audit when they come pulling that information as samplings. You can add items on a one-off or do a bulk upload. So best practice there is if you have a lot of prepaids hitting the balance sheet account, you could export those new those new balances for the month and then bulk upload in a templatized way, and FloQast will fill out all that information for you. And again, because we love Excel, we're going to give you that full Excel-based reconciliation. So here we have that hashtag FQ that ties back to the reconciliations page. This was providing you the full row forward, as well as that full amortization waterfall schedule, and then even the journal entry to post back into your ERP. So pretty simple, but again, trying to just automate and speed up that process and then reduce risk. There's a lot of times where if you change the amortization in a given period, the Excel formula might break, you might not notice, things like that, that just kind of take time away from the team doing more strategic work. We're really trying to take that off your plate. We also have the ability to have a flux analysis within the tool. So because we're pulling in that trial balance data from your ERP, we can give the team the ability to house the flux analysis within FloQast. And what I really liked about this was it's very collaborative and really kind of reduces that administrative effort. So we can do balance sheet or income statement fluxes. We can do month over month, quarter over quarter, year over year, really any two periods that you're comparing against. We also are releasing budget to actuals in a week or so. So that's the ability to have a uploaded budget. So this column could be the budget, and then comparing to those actuals and allowing commentary on that. So we'd set a materiality threshold similar to those reconciliations page. It assigned due dates to it. If the flux, if it crosses that materiality threshold for the flux, the preparers would be notified they need to leave a flux explanation. The goal being here is that, as preparers are filling out those reconciliations, they're closest to the data. They should have an understanding of, what is causing that flux, so they can leave the explanation as they're filling out their reconciliation. So rather than having the flux be an end of close project in which then maybe you're finding mistakes, because we're doing the flux collaboratively and in tandem with the reconciliations and building that out, this can be used as a true analytic. So, if there is an explanation that doesn't sound quite right, you can launch a review note, say, look into that, please, and then maybe make an adjusting entry or correct for something way before the 11th hour of when you're trying to produce the financials. And then when all is said and done, we're going to give you the wonderful flux and pre-formatted Excel export. So again, reducing that administrative burden, you're no longer having to sort of distribute out the P&L or the balance sheet and then collate all those explanations back together. All of that's being done with an app, and then all of the explanations as well as the flux variances are all going to be visible within this export that you can hand off to key stakeholders. And then the final major portion of this, because we have everything living in system, those checklist items, the sign-offs thereof, the reconciliations, all of that fun stuff, we can provide you with a whole slew of data behind that. So at the top of the application, we had that progress dial of helping answer the question, are we going to close on time? Within analytics, we have trends. So basically a postmortem of how are we doing over time? Are we actually reducing time to close? Have we been removing bottlenecks? Have we been understanding what's going on? Or, are people being diligent and signing off on time? Things like that. So you can see here, over time, we're showing that nice downward slope. We're going through a lot of acquisitions, let's say, in the last 2 periods. That's why they're a little higher. But being able to call out the reoccurring late checklist items, reoccurring late reconciliations, and then even reoccurring late team members. And just to note, this isn't intended to be Big Brother, and the analytics is only visible by managers and admins. But it allowed me as a manager to have, I think, better informed conversations. You're often kind of crawling across the finish line of close, happy to not think about it until the next close comes. But this is arming you with a whole slew of quantitative data to take qualitative action. So you kind of have an understanding of what the roadblocks are. You kind of have an understanding, close after close of what's going on, where there could be improvement. This is calling it out for you, and allowed me to have more informed conversations overall. So rather than starting with, where are we, where are we behind? I kind of already know that data, so I can say, if we were late with cash and cash equivalents every period by a week, what is the issue? Is it the bank is somehow not issuing the information? Is it that the matching takes too long? You have too much on your plate to even get to the matching? Just being able to really drill down into understanding, what is going on within your team to better improve, their work-life balance and better improve the process overall. Likewise, this can be exported. So all of that data comes in pre-populated pivots, and you can really just dig in deep and figure out, how you want to improve on the next close.